everyone. I am Sophie Davis and I'm the development lead for our Colonial Caribbean resource. So 2023 sees the release of our third and final module of this extensive resource, and it's titled Economic Change and Indentured Labour, which is covering the years 1950 to 1972. So this module brings to a close our range of unique primary sources covering 23 file classes of the British government's Colonial Office held at the National Archives in the UK. These will cover 21 islands in the Caribbean, stretching from Jamaica and the Bahamas to St. Lucia and Barbados. And it presents an opportunity for the academic field to study slavery from prominence to abolition in the wider context of British colonial rule in the West Indies. So the resource details the regular running of trade and shipping to island council meetings, various legislation and bills, prison records and building plans. The third module particularly oversees 22 years of quite turbulent economic decline in the region and indentured labourers from other corners of the British Empire who were brought across to boost the workforce where those enslaved were freed. As we've been kind of keen to highlight with our other previous two modules, the resources narrative very much stems from the perspective of white British colonisers, as of course these are administrative government documents. As Dot was alluding to in her introduction, you can find hidden narratives of those who are enslaved within these documents. However, we do think it's very important to note that these are still viewed through the white gaze. It still presents academics and students with an excellent opportunity to study the multitude of angles throughout the rise and decline of the slave trade. And also to address this imbalance, we are offering free access to the resource to the National Archives and Libraries of the islands included within the site. So as with our previous two modules, we have a range of essays to contextualise this period of change, which opens new angles into narratives within the material. We also have our language and terminology guidelines, and these provide really important contextual details on outdated language and terms which were previously used to address cultures within the existing metadata. The resource itself continues to have multiple methods of searching, so this can be by governor, by colony, the file class, and then the theme. So this is in order to help those in different backgrounds experience or to explore the resource. So we've offered multiple access points here. So a veteran researcher, for example, might prefer to use file class, whereas an undergraduate might prefer or find it easier to browse by colony or by theme. Of course, we have our handwritten text recognitions. This is HTR, which is applied to all the documents. So this makes them searchable. The documents have been sectioned, improving the navigability and helping users basically just are able to go straight to the bits that they're looking for. Now, material in the resource is scanned from big bound volumes, and these contain a treasure trove of documents such as correspondence, census data and statistics, draft bills, land board papers, legislative acts, maps and plans, medical and military reports, minutes of meetings, newspapers, ordinance, petitions, and proclamations. Our key themes are quite consistent across the three modules, particularly because these bound volumes, they're interspersed across all of them. So you have absentee landlords and estate ownership, and I think this is a particularly big theme in the third module. Crime and punishment, finance the economy, another particular important theme in this resource. Trade and shipping, we've got law and governance, mutiny and piracy, I think I've explored that in a previous New 4 webinar, plantation governance, maintenance and labour, religion, slavery, abolition and emancipation, uprising and revolts, and war in the military. So I'm just going to now take you through the kind of main narratives that kind of set apart module 3 compared to our two previous. So from this resource, you'll be able to study the overall administrative running of the Caribbean islands that were part of the British Empire. So I would say there's two major strains of narratives that are driving this period of time. You have the economic decline in the region, which in turn leads to an increase in indentured labourers coming into the Caribbean. So at the end of the apprenticeship period, which is where we kind of left off from module 2, that period being a system designed to gradually grant freedom to those individuals who were enslaved. And after this, the emancipated refused to return to the plantations owing to the low wages that were being offered to them. So this shortage in the workforce meant that those freed actually had the ability to bargain for higher wages. However, the British government used indentured labour to try and get around this issue. So the increased importation of Indian workers from another country within the empire prevented emancipated slaves from having any bargaining power, and in turn led to the rise of poverty and injustice in the islands. Indentured labour is one example of the way the British government disenfranchised those emancipated in the Caribbean. So preventing higher wages with indentured labour led many who were emancipated from being able to afford the poll tax that was required to vote. So this inability to partake in their own political system, combined with poor living conditions, and furthermore that was caused by floods and droughts, and of course there were then long epidemics of cholera and smallpox, and these all resulted in grievances through the Black communities. This in turn led to many uprisings and rebellions within the region. The third module of this resource witnesses the thread of oppression and violence, and it kind of really sees it reach its head. And a particularly important example of this is the Morant Bay Rebellion of 1865. And on this slide in front of you, you can see some documents to kind of allude to this particular event. And so that brings us really to the denouement of Colonial Caribbean, which is released later this year. It's my first ever project that I worked on since I joined AM, so it's quite overwhelming to see it reach its conclusion. And with that, I will now hand back over to Dot. Thank you.